Hello. Uh, so I had a busy day today, and completely forgot it was Tuesday as well. So we are pulling together odds and ends, but with a plan this time instead of just nonsense. Um, what is that? Oh, wait, hold on. Eh. Um, I mowed the lawn this morning. That's not normally news, but I haven't mowed the lawn this year so far. It was very long. I was doing no mow May. I stopped it a day early because there's a chance of rain every day this week. Um, we had a tiny, tiny sprinkle today, and I think it's just because there's going to be those sort of spotty spring storms. So then no one's sure if you're going to get rain or not. Um, so rather than have us run into June and it be super long and then wet and impossible to cut. I cut it a day early just to get it out of the way. I'm praying for rain. We haven't had rain in ages. We really need it. And then I also hooked up the air conditioner because we're supposed to hit 90 this week. Okay, well, probably about time for that. I've been able to hold off, and it's been pretty pleasant. But I can feel today already. This late afternoon like this, it's creeping up. It's creeping up. Sealed off house isn't quite holding against the heat, um, the 87-degree heat. But then yeah, we had Memorial Day yesterday, and it threw me off. So I forgot today was Tuesday. I felt like it was Monday. I was doing errands, it was chores, things I normally do on Monday. Yeah. So the plan today is Seitan. We're going to be making it again. I'm not going to make it the long way. The last time I made it with the washed flour method, which is just plain flour made into a dough and then washed until all that's left is the proteins. You can do it that way. It was very time consuming and we didn't get a lot out of it. And we got a ton of starch water, which I used, but I don't have a lot of uses for a lot of starchy water. So kind of not what I was looking for. Um, I imagine there are good uses for starchy water for the places that are producing seitan. Instead, we are digging into my cupboard and getting out gluten flour. This stuff is, unlike regular flour, which is like 8 to 9% gluten, this stuff is 70 to 80% gluten. Um, you don't need to wash this stuff. It's pretty much pre sifted, pre-separated. It's quite a lot more expensive than, oh, it's like our chat is breaking down. It's quite a lot more expensive. Oh, that reminds me. I'm supposed to do a greeting to anyone who watches me on YouTube, and promote my YouTube, which is where there's archives of all my streams, because I don't know what to do with the footage and I don't want to lose it, so it goes to YouTube. And I've just launched an Instagram, which so far has one photo, but it's going to be photos of all my food. We're finally just slapped myself and started doing the things I should have been doing 6 months ago, um, or more than 6 months ago. So yeah, that's the plan. The plan is we're going to make Seitan out of this, using a slightly different method. And then I'm probably going to make some sort of fun stir fry thingy. I've got an eggplant that I have to use up. It's already starting to develop some spots, which is not a sign of spoilage unless they're soft spots. And these are, you can see, they're not the prettiest things. They're just kind of brown discolorations, but they're not soft. So this isn't going bad. It's just getting oxidized because it's been kind of sitting around a little bit too long. So that's a signal that you got to use it up right quick, because then it'll go off soon. And I've got some baby bok choy. Although this is pretty big baby bok choy. This is more like teenage bok choy. Also needs to be used up. We've still got some of that mushroom. We've still got all sorts of odds and ends. We're gonna make an odds and ends stir fry probably. Yeah, to go with this. So that's the plan. I suppose we should get rid of that and slide over the gentleman and tiny whisk and our vegetables, because we're going to start with the seitan because it does need a bit of a rest time and then a bit of a pre-cook in order to get it to a condition where you can actually use it. So get out your bowl. And your gluten flour. We are going to use, put that in there, by volume, not by weight, 2-to-1 flour to water. And it's not actually a very exacting measurement for this stuff. So I'm not super worried about going over or spilling it or anything really. I love that Bob's Red Mill Company has come up with this this weird zipper that works for powdery things. It'll zip shut even if there's powder in the zipper, and it's tight. The powder won't come out. It's amazing. I kind of hope they didn't patent it because I think it should probably replace a lot of sandwich bag zippers because it seems better, more generally useful. But I bet you it's got a patent on it. So we got a cup of our gluten flour, to which we're going to add some flavors. Because this stuff it does not taste like bread. It's flour and water, it's wheat and water, but a big part of what gives bread its flavor is yeast, is the yeast in the bread. So, in order to give this some flavor, we're going to add some yeast to it. I've got nutritional yeast here, which has just sort of a generic savory flavor. It's used in vegan recipes to add sort of a savoriness, or some people say a cheesiness. I'm not sure if I buy that. I think it's sort of a generalized savory, like almost a mushroomy savoriness. Which makes sense. Yeast is a fungus. It's just a micro fungus instead of one that makes big mushroomy things. So I've added 2 tablespoons of that, but very roughly measured. I'm also going to add some garlic. Probably don't need a full half tablespoon of this. We're going to go with about a half a scoop of that. And something that I did use last time we made seitan, seasoning. This stuff is it's just like a generic liquid savory flavoring. It's made from wheat gluten. Wheat gluten is the main flavoring compound in here, aside from salt. So we're going to add a good amount of this as well. You don't, of course, don't have to flavor your seitan if you don't like this, or you can get super creative. It's a completely blank slate ingredient, and if you're making it yourself, you can throw whatever you want in it. It is often given savory flavors. It's often given specifically flavors that mimic meats, because it is used as a meat substitute, but certainly not necessary. Um, Anything else I want to put in there? I don't want to put any like really punchy spices in it. We're just trying to give it kind of a generalized savoriness. Let's give it a little MSG. An unmeasured amount, but that looks like about less than a quarter tablespoon. Probably a slightly underfilled half teaspoon. Um, and then, of course, the final ingredient, water. Plain, ordinary tap water. Should have brought the bowl to the sink instead of bringing the water to the bowl. Um, oh well. And then we just need to bring this together into a dough. And this is not a lot of water for the dough, but also remember that there's not as much starch in this flour as there is in normal flour. So, this should pull itself together. I got a gnat. Go away, gnat. It should pretty quickly start pulling itself together into a dry dough. A dry and very springy dough. We might need slightly more water if it doesn't come together. As with any dough, it's dependent on humidity as well as how much water you've added to it. So I'm going to give it just a scooch more water. It's a little bit too crumbly. We don't want it to get real sticky, but we want it to pick up all of the flour that's in the bowl. Also, without the starch, because the starch is what makes bread doughs very like gluey. Yeah, see, it picked up all the starch. Without the starch, it's not a sticky dough. Actually, it'll sticks to itself pretty well. It picks up the stuff off my hands. We're going to need it for a while to really develop the glutens to make it work. It smells good. Oh, it smells. Wow. Wow. It smells like. It smells bready. I do have a reference up. Let's see how long it wants me to need it in the reference. We may have over wetted it a little bit. I think it's supposed to be a little bit harder than this. So I might just add in a little bit more flour just to dry it out a little bit. I think we're a little bit on the wet side. Because we want it to be so at the point when you added a little bit of water because it was a little bit too dry, add a little bit less more water. Um, turn out onto a floured board, which we have here because I floured this board, and knead it vigorously for about 3 minutes. It is not going to be smooth. It is not going to turn into a nice, smooth bread dough. But you really need to overwork it because we're trying to develop a very chewy gluten matrix. This feels more like what I wanted it to be. At least what it feels more like what it's supposed to be in my head. I gotta say, wheat really is amazing stuff. The fact that it can be used in this way as a protein. Now, I know there are plenty of people who can't have wheat gluten, but the fact that this exists from a grain, you could make a sandwich entirely out of wheat if you really wanted to. You could make a dinner entirely out of different preparations of wheat, and they would be like quite different things. Oh, perfect thing. So this is what we're building. These like stringy strands are the gluten that we've been developing by kneading it like this. So I really should sort of fold it in on itself and get the outer surface involved in that process. So I'm just kind of pulling, and here I can do it face up. I'm pulling and pushing it into itself in the middle here. It's very springy, almost like rubbery at this point. Because I want the inner part there to combine. I think we've got a good, very stiff thingy here. It needs to rest, which is fine because I have other things to do. So as you can see, this part does not take very long. We're only, aside from my chit chat, we've only been here 20 minutes. But there is a resting time, and then we have to boil it, and then we also have to cut it for making it into the edible little pieces. Because this thing here is a little bit too huge to cook. Because remember, it's still raw. Like meat, you got to cook this stuff. Like bread, you got to cook this stuff. You should not eat this stuff raw. So we're going to set it there so you guys can watch it. It's not going to rise. Sadly, the yeasts we put in it are not live yeasts. And I don't think there's enough sugar in there to feed them, even if we did put live yeasts in. We're going to move on to our eggplant. Our slightly spotty eggplant that needs to be used. Good practice to sharpen up your knife, to hone your knife every time you go to use it. As I said, this eggplant has developed some brown spotting, but as long as they're not soft or slimy or stinky, and they are none of those things, it's just oxidation on the surface. It's just oxidation. It's not spoilage. You can tell when an eggplant goes spoiled because they get kind of creepy. I'm going to treat this eggplant a little bit like a big, like European style eggplant. Because I have had problems in the past trying to do a fast, hot, stir-fry style cook with these eggplants, and them just kind of getting either undercooked or soggy. So I'm going to attempt to give these guys a short, salted rest, the way you do with the big European style eggplants. To try to get some of the moisture out of them so that hopefully they won't dump a bunch of extra moisture. See, they're perfectly fine on the inside. A little bit seedy, but that happens because it's a fruit. But those little brown spots they're literally just surface blemishes. There's a spot right there, and the inside is completely perfectly fine. It's just the skin oxidizing. So yeah, let's get out a mesh. And I normally don't do this with this kind of eggplant, but as I said, I've had trouble cooking them the way I think you're supposed to cook them, and so I'm going to try sweating them out a little bit before I actually get to cooking them. So we're going to take them. If you're deep frying eggplants, you have to do this because you got to get some of the moisture out of them. And you just salt them. Forget that guy. And let them rest. And these are pretty small pieces, so we don't need a ton of salt. This will be a step. If you've ever made eggplant parmesan, this is a step that you have to take. And you're supposed to let them rest, like the big pieces, you're supposed to let them rest for like an hour. So I'm going to have that guy propped over the sink so that if they drip, they will drip into the sink. Because I don't want to make a mess of those. And what this is doing is the salt draws the moist. The reason you do it with big eggplants is twofold. There's a little bit of a bitterness in them that the salt will draw out. And it also dries out some of the extra moisture that's in the tissues of the eggplant, which is good for things like baking and frying, where you don't want it to dump a bunch of extra moisture into your dish while you're cooking it. Otherwise, you end up with a soup instead of a fried eggplant. These small ones typically don't get that treatment, but I've had issues with these in the past. So I'm just trying this out. And then I guess we're going to do some mise en place with all of the rest of our stuff while this guy rests up, and then we can get back to him. I'm going to rinse out this bok choy. As I said at the very start, I have baby bok choy, but it's a very, very large baby bok choy. These guys are more like teenage bok choy. The last time I used one, I only used half. So I've got a half here, and the core is very large on these. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna treat them more like regular bok choy, just small, and get rid of the core, because the cores aren't really good eats on a bok choy, in my opinion. Plus, that lets us get in between the leaves like this and get rid of some of that dirt that they tend to. Oh, there's a little baby one forming inside of the leaf there. Ingredient bowl. Oh, you're supposed to stay there so everyone can watch you not rise. Behold, as my dough does not rise. Okay, take the leafy parts off. Slice the stemmy parts into nice, tasty chunks. Take the leafy parts off. These stemmy parts are smaller, so we'll just do one slice across, and that guy can go in by himself. The leafy parts cook much faster than the stemmy parts, so separating them is generally encouraged. Put them in at different stages, which also means we need a second bowl to hold the leafy parts. It's not a lot of bok choy, honestly. It's not a lot. Now, again, I gotta control myself. I have a bad habit of cooking too much, cooking for more than just myself. And oh, there's an ad. If you're seeing this ad, you can't hear me. If you're not seeing the ad right now, thanks for subscribing, or you got lucky and the ad didn't play. One of those two things is true. So we have two different sort of stages of cooking here. So I'm going to add stuff to these existing bowls. Starting with an onion. And we're gonna, before we do an onion, we're going to wipe some of the extra water off of the board here. On account of I washed my bok choy, so there's a puddle on the board and on the counter, which could cause slipping, which is something you super don't want. Let's wipe the knife down too. Cutting on a slippery surface is always bad, okay? Come on, bite. There we go. Take the tail off and the skin. The skin, okay. I really should open my compost bucket at the start of these projects so I can just chuck stuff in. But it's stinky. So we can do that here. Let's do this the way. No, that's foolish because I don't want little cubes. I want like arcs. So we're just going to slice it the normal way, the nothing fancy way, and use the little root as a handle. And these can go in at the same time as the bok choy stems. Next, let's throw in a carrot. And we will see if I have the skills to julienne a carrot by hand. I don't think I do. I don't think I have developed that well yet. That's not great, but it's not that bad. If you can get your carrots sliced into a nice julienne or a matchstick, they will cook fast enough that you can put them in at the same time as the carrots or not the carrots, the onions and bok choy stems. If your carrots are too thick, they have to go in earlier because they are much sturdier than the other things. And I think we're going to save those pieces of carrot for snacking because I think we have enough carrot for my mix there. Stem away. Onion, carrot, bok choy, eggplant. Sounds pretty good to me at this point. So let's stop prepping vegetables and move on to prepping spices. Or let's see, hasn't quite been 15 minutes on the dough yet. Well, I'm blazing through this. Let's get out some garlic and ginger. I am very low on garlic. In fact, this is the last of my garlic. We're going to have to get more garlic. Selena, you are first. Welcome in. How is it going? We're making Satan. There it is. How are you this fine day? I'm getting pretty warm. We're gonna have to put the AC on after I'm done here. And that's it. That's the end of the garlic. That's the done of the garlic. definitely going. That sounds. I know that feeling. Ooh, it's a going. Some ginger. Bookwoman! Howdy do. Some gnarly looking ginger. We're gonna peel the ginger. How's it going? What's up? That's some gnarly looking ginger. Normally I say don't bother peeling your ginger, but this time, peel away those gnarls. It's like flaky on the skin. Um, but yeah, welcome in. We're making Seitan. There it is. Uh, we've done Seitan before. This is the easy way with gluten, just like a big bag of powdered gluten. Pozzoli. Oh my. Oh my. Oh, I know what I should make. I can't make it today because I forgot I was doing a show because I forgot it was Tuesday because of the holiday. Um, my friend, Fox Familiar Farms, follow him on Instagram, has been producing very large quantities of wine cap mushrooms. They've all of a sudden started coming in just vast numbers. Um, and he suggested I revisit mushroom bolognese and write it all down. Um, so I will have to do that. I will have to stock up on some mushrooms from him. I only have the remains of the last batch he gave me, but he's producing them in pretty crazy quantities now. Um, I guess it's wine cap season. Why is this ginger so gnarly? I'm getting more aggressive with the peeling as I go because it's just so gnarly. Okay. Ginger sans peel. Uh, let's get rid of those shavings. And then this needs to be thinly sliced. When you're thinly slicing ginger, do it across the rhizome like this instead of down the length of it because there are fibers that run the length and they can get a little bit tough sometimes. And if you cut them like this, you sever those fibers and you won't even notice them in the eating, much like cutting a steak in the correct direction to make it either tender or unreasonably chewy. Okay, some of this ginger has to go in a broth that we have not yet started making, so I should start making the broth part because we're going to need that. So let's pop over here real quick. We don't need a lot of depth. What we need is a lot of surface area. So I'm using my widest pan that is not currently occupied by something. I should actually be using that pan, but there's something in it. So, because it was too much. So we're using this pan. And I'm measuring the water, but I don't really think I need to, because we're just kind of, it has to be enough, has to be enough water. That's enough water. So it just has to be enough water. So we're filling this up, about a third from the top. And to it, I shall be adding a few things. We need to make a flavored broth here. So heat on a little bit higher than medium. Squeak. I'm going to crack open one of these packages of dried shiitakes that I have a million of. They will be part of our finished thing, but also they can help flavor this. Because as they rehydrate in the broth, they will impart some of their flavors into it. In the same vein, we're going to add some mushroom stock concentrate, which has a whole bunch of stuff in it. Let's see. For each quart of stock, use 1.5 tablespoons of mushroom base. We have a quart and 3 cups. So 2 tablespoons of mushroom stock base should be good, but I'm just going to eyeball them. This is not an ad for this brand of stock, but I love them. Okay, that's going to dissolve in there. Concentrated. Concentrated. Don't lick the spoon. It kind of burns. It kind of burns in your throat because it's so concentrated. Ow. Don't do as I do. Ooh. And we're going to take some of our ginger, the less pretty pieces, throw that in as well to sort of infuse the broth with some gingeriness. We shouldn't need any garlic in here because there's garlic in the mix for the stock base, which is good because I only have a limited amount of garlic and I would like it to be in the actual finished thing. We're going to treat the garlic a little bit differently today because I want nice visible pieces and I don't have a ton of it. So what I normally say, I always say prep your garlic in advance, well before you need it. This time I'm not even going to crush. I might crush a little tiny one. We're going to go for slices, which are not ideal for amping up the garlicky flavor, but you get nice, recognizable pieces at the end. Which I do like sometimes, and for what I have in mind, again, I'm just kind of throwing together, but I've got a goal in mind today as opposed to just winging it. Um, for the goal I've got in mind, I want some nice pieces. Pro tip, make an extra portion and bring it to work for lunch tomorrow. I could do that, or I could not do that. Making extra for yourself for future eatings is definitely a good thing. I have a bad habit of making too much and then not getting to it all before it goes off. And I've been trying to control myself and do less of that. Make just enough for how much I want now. Also, in this case, I'm limited by how much garlic I have. But yes, if you are making something, making a batch ahead of time can save a ton of time in the future. So our sliced garlic, I crushed the tiny one with the flat of the blade and then minced it. So that should have a bit more garlickiness than the other ones, which will be good for our finished result. And then we're just going to simmer away that stuff. This thing is probably ready to go. Poke, 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 poke. So let's get the ginger out of there as well. That can go. Ginger's a pretty robust ingredient when it comes to like a stir fry. You can put it in relatively early. So I think I'm going to throw it in with those guys. Let's get this thing out of here. Click over to my reference recipe. We're reference recipeing from the Vegan Atlas today. Now I'm making this substantially smaller than their recipe calls for, because they made a ball twice as big as this. But we're supposed to divide this, and it's got a toughness to it and a springiness verging on rubber-like. So you do need a sharp blade to divide this stuff. You can't just... You can cut it with just a bench scraper, but it's harder to do that. And then we're supposed to make this longer. And it's going to fight you the whole way. We're going to move the board even. I'm going to do it right on the table. It's going to fight you the whole way because this stuff is all gluten. We're supposed to make these like little baguette shapes instead of halves of a ball. And they'll hold if you fight with them enough. Remember when we did this with the washed flour, just the standard flour, and we did the washed flour method, and we got a finished thing that was like that much, and a gallon of starch water from 4 cups of flour. Yeah, this is the better version if you can get the stuff. If you can get a hold of wheat of pre-prepared wheat gluten. This is the way to go. This one's coming apart a little bit. I think our core that I folded in on itself didn't quite stick. I think we did it too late in the process. That's fine. We're just going to have some irregular pieces. We're just going to have a few irregular pieces. At this stage, they look a lot like turds. I'm going to seal this up because I don't need any more gluten flour. And then let's start with the one that's in better shape, because this is what you're supposed to end with, like a log. And then you take coins off of it. And they are tough buggers. So use a very sharp knife, or a serrated knife. Like a steak knife would actually work here. Whatever you use has to be sharp to get through this stuff. Don't worry, it softens up when you cook it, but not a lot. It still has the whole point of this stuff is it's got a very meat-like texture. While being meatless. So these are our slices, and now they're pretty sticky because the inside of the log there was pretty sticky. They're not ready to eat at this stage. This one I'm going to have to trim like we would a piece of actual meat, because I couldn't get it to come together quite right. So we're going to split it. It's almost the shape of a chicken breast. So we're going to separate the breast from the tender, and then do the same thing with the slices here. I also am doing this today because I have done Seitan twice, 2 different methods, and I was not happy with either of them. So we are trying another slightly different method, and if I can get one that I'm actually happy with, I will add it formally to my repertoire, because I like the pre-made stuff. I just haven't been able to get a satisfactory result working on it from home. The inside of this stuff is sticky. And you do have to put quite a lot of, I know this from experience now, you have to put quite a lot of flavor into Seitan at every stage. So there's flavor in our dough, there's flavor in our broth that we're going to cook it in, and then there's also going to be flavor in the finished result, because this stuff is really bland on its own. It's definitely not meant to be eaten as is. It is meant to be put into other stuff. Let's take a peek. So those guys are ready to boil as soon as our broth comes to a simmer. And I've had it on a non-aggressive heat, because I didn't want it to go over while I was distracted. So let's turn it up a little bit and get it stirring. Our mushrooms look pretty well rehydrated, but I'm not going to take them out until the seitan goes in, because I would like them to infuse their flavors into the broth as much as possible. But they look very well rehydrated. These are just shiitakes, which are widely available in dry and not dry forms. And it's pretty easy to make at home, I think. We might have too much water in that pot, actually. I guess we'll find out. We might have to do the seitans in batches if they overload this pan. Nope, we have an ad coming up in about a minute. Let me take a peek at my eggplants. They're starting to sweat. They're not going to get a lot of sweat in the short time we have them over here. And I knew that going into it. I'm going to flip them all over, since the salt is now stuck to the bottoms because they've been sweating a little bit. And salt the tops, salt the other side, just to give these things the most head start we can. You won't be able to see me doing it, but it's exactly how I did it when I did it over there. Ta-da, I did it. Add now. Ad starting soon. Okay, rice. Because if we're making a stir fry, it wants to be served on rice. So I should get some rice started before I forget, before it's too late. So let's do that next, while our water is coming up to a simmer. It's currently coming up to a simmer. It's almost there. Which means I better hurry. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere if it simmers on me. My half cup measure. Oh, that's pretty foamy, actually. I wasn't expecting that to be quite so foamy. Calm down. Calm yourself down there. I'm going to let that calm down a little bit. I'm going to wash some rice. Put it in our... Oh, yeah, that can actually come down even a little bit more. We're going to wash some rice. We're going to put it in our rice cooker, and then it'll be done by the time I get to it. Half cup plain long grain rice. Bunch of cold water. The broth actually looks great now. With the foam gone, it's got a nice sort of gentle simmer to it. I'll just let that bruttle away. We can fish. The mushrooms sank, so we're going to fish those out. But it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere on me, so I'm going to take the time to wash my rice while the ad is playing. The ad's over. Always take the time to wash your rice if you're planning on serving it as, like, the rice to go with a stir fry, that kind of service. Because you want nice individual grains of rice. You don't want a big glob. If you're making sushi rice, don't do this. If you're making risotto, don't do this. If you want a method that doesn't involve any washing, that gives you nice loose grains of rice, try the Indian method, which I've championed here before, and I'm not doing today, but, you know, ask me about it. If you want to know, ask me about it. Otherwise, wait till I do it next time, and I will tell you about it then. Our water is nice and clear. Rinse your rice until the water is nice and clear. Put your rice into your cooking vessel. In my case, it is my electric rice cooker. Add to it water in the appropriate amount. I'm adding twice as much water as I have rice. Place it in the machine. Close the lid. Forget to take the big jar of rice out of the way. So close it up one-handed and move it one-handed awkwardly. And then rice. Rice. Go. Go rice. Okay. Rice is on the go. This is at a bit of too gentle of a simmer. We need to find those mushrooms. They're kind of floating. But they need to come out now because the seitan is about to go in. We're gonna Oop, shit. Well, that one's on the floor. I need a better thing for catching, for fishing them out than a flat spoon, such as a slotted spoon. Which I should have gotten initially. It's perfect. I'm probably going to need it to get the seitan out of there as well, so. Okay. Floor mushroom is going to have to get rinsed because I don't think my floor is quite clean enough to eat directly off of. Oop, mushroom. But all these things we're going to have to cool down anyway, so I'm not busted up about it. And they're all going to get recooked as well. If you're in a restaurant, don't drop your ingredients on the floor. And if you do, do not pick them up and use them. I'm cooking for myself at home. Thus, I'm confident in doing this to myself at home. We've lost our simmer, so we're going to have to bring that back up to a 7 on my dial. And we're going to use the bowl here that I made the dough in to catch the seitan pieces as they come out of the broth. And they have to go in one at a time. Although I'm going to grab a bunch of them and bring them over and then slide them in one at a time. The purpose of this, near as I can tell, is just so that they don't stick together in a glob once they get in there. Because the outer surface will cook very, very quickly, enough that they won't stick to each other. But if they stick to each other before you can do that, then they'll just be a big glob. We're gonna see how many we can get in there. Hopefully all of them, because they have to be in there for about 30 minutes. So we're gonna do other things while they're going away. But let's get them in there. They should start to float and puff up. Which we want. Whoa. 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 Bookwoman is gifting 5 tier 1 subs. But Twitch isn't telling me who it's giving them to. Thank you so much, Bookwoman. I wonder why Twitch isn't telling me who it's giving them to. There they are. Selena. Not Your Dolly. Nomios. Toka. And that person who's a big string of numbers who was here on Saturday. Wow. I need to get an alert for that so that it does something and does a song and dance. Wow. So very generous. Thank you so much. If you're here and you just received a gift sub, give Bookwoman a thanks. All right, I wanted to get all these guys in here before I stop. Whoa, whoa, caught me off guard there. Dang. This is why I need headphones, because then if I could do an alert, I could be facing this way. The sound would come up, and I'd be like, "Oh dang!" I wouldn't have to be looking at the screen. Well, hot dang! Thank you so much. I don't have a ton of perks at the moment, but you'll get this stupid little thing. You get this stupid little thing. I love this little guy. And of course, ad-free viewing. Keep track of when I put those in. They have to now simmer for about 30 minutes. So we're going to come back to them. But we're also going to not completely ignore them and lose track, because I'm worried they might boil over if I do. I've also got an unused emote slot, actually, and I don't know what should go in it. So if you have any ideas, hit me. And then they'll make being a sub even better, because there'll be more emotes. Oh, don't worry about distracting me. Half the fun of this is that there's you guys here along with me, getting me distracted. I should, I should. Oh, our stuff here. You can actually. It's changed. So we've developed a bit more of a boil. Make sure these guys aren't sticking to anything. And they're starting to float and enlarge and we just need to kind of maintain this level. Okay. Okay. Well, wow. I have one of the lowest excitement streams that I'm in. Of all the streams I'm in, this is the lowest excitement one because I don't have any song and dance alerts that happen when subs happen. Um, I have sliced the shiitake mushrooms up. We have our onions, carrots, bok choy stems, and ginger in this bowl, and I'm going to add the sliced mushrooms to this bowl because they are already cooked. They've been boiled. So they won't need a ton of time in the mix when we get to the actual, like, frying it all together part. The garlic is in its own space because it has to be added separately because it has a risk of burning. Let's wipe down our board again. Then we should think about other flavors. At the moment, we are on track for a vegan stir fry. So I probably should stick with that. But that means avoiding fish sauce, oyster sauce in constructing my saucy flavors. I don't think that'll be a problem. We've got quite a few different savory. No, we've got quite a few different savory elements going on in here at the moment. Oh, that was brakes. I suddenly heard this high-pitched, like, squeal. It was someone's crappy brakes outside. What the heck it could be high-pitched squealing? So flavors for our sauce concoction. Let's go. Let me see. I got to read the bottles in some of these if they've got. Sweet potato, garlic. Okay, okay. So hoisin sauce is a thick sweet sauce, and it is apparently vegan safe, or at least this one I've got is. I can't vouch for all of them, but this one does. So that can actually be a decent stand-in for oyster sauce. We're getting a little bit low on this guy. It's not exactly the same, but I feel like it's in the realm. Because I would like to add an oyster sauce to what I'm making here, but obviously we can't if we're going to stick with vegan. Some sesame oil. I am going to put it on the heat. I do typically put my sesame oil on the heat. I don't think it loses that much flavor. Your standard classic soy sauce is made out of soybeans and wheat as well, so that's no problem. Let's check on Laogan Ma, soybean oil, chili, onions, fermented soybeans, MSG, salt, sugar, more pepper. Yeah, okay. Laogan Ma is also clear, which is great because Laogan Ma is incredibly delicious, and I would hate to deprive vegans or vegetarians from its joys, but it is, at least based on the label, contains no animal ingredients. I don't know why I suddenly get into my head that I should do a vegan day, because I'm not a vegan. But sometimes it's just like, well, I'm like 90% of the way there on being a vegan. Moisten. Thank you for the moisten. I put a water glass right there where you could see it. Mm. Moist. I find myself noticing when I'm almost all the way through making something just vegan by accident, and then I'm like, I should just stick with that. I should just make it vegan all the way to the end instead of reaching for the oyster sauce and then it having oysters in it. This stuff, Laogan Ma, is made out of fried chili peppers and soybeans mostly, but it has this lovely sort of rich, savory, peppery flavor, but it's not very spicy. There's a little bit of spice to it. It's not spicy. If you're super sensitive to spice, it'll probably get you, but it's not very spicy. Uh, yeah. And then I kind of want to add a little bit of. I've done vegan many times before. I'm commenting on the fact that I wasn't intending to make this a vegan dish, but now that we are at this stage where I'm grabbing for sauces, I'm realizing, thinking back of what all the things I put in it, and it's all vegetables and mushrooms. So when I'm reaching for the things to make the sauce, I have an oyster sauce right here, which would be an excellent flavor to add to this, but it would make it non-vegan. So even though I didn't set out with the intent of this being vegan, now that it's gotten this far, and this happens to me frequently where I'm just cooking with ingredients, and then I realize, like right at the end, oh, huh, what do you know? Vegan by accident. So yes, I have done vegan before. I frequently just do it without thinking. We're going to add some gochugaru to this because, as I said, the Laoganba is not spicy. Gochugaru is Korean spice. Laoganba is a Chinese spice. And I think I also want to add some gochujang, which is quite a lot spice. But is also very savory. Gochujang is a pepper and, what is it, pepper and brown rice? Yeah, pepper and brown rice that has been fermented together. So it's got this lovely sort of deep flavor, but brings a lot of spice to the party too, which this did not have up to that point. We'll stir this together. and then give it a taster and see if I think it needs a shot of anything. It might just need a little bit of water to thin it out, so that we can toss stuff in it. Because if your sauce is too thick, you end up with gobs of it instead of it a nice coating. The Logon Ma jumps out. That stuff is so good. I'm gonna pick a new jar. I'm gonna have to pick up a new jar soon because the one I've got is getting low. And we don't always have it in stock. This is mighty tasty. It does seem a little bit too thick for what I want to use it for. So we're gonna add just a smidgen of water. Which will cause the oily components to separate from it a little bit, but it'll make it thin enough that it's saucy instead of a thick paste. Perfect. And then I'm actually going to use the water here to make do it the right way by doing it in a little dish so I know how much I've got. A little bit of cornstarch because we're going to want the sauce then to re-thicken after we've got it coated on everything. Which is what your little dish of wet cornstarch does. Also works with potato starch. I think it also works with tapioca starch. Probably works with wheat starch. So actually, if you make your seitan the washed flour way and you've got all that starch water, let it settle out, and then you could use the wet starch as a sauce thickener. That would probably be very effective because it would be very, very, very hydrated. Okay, ingredients, sauce. More ingredients. We're going to add a dish for garnishes here. Sesame seed in black and in white. Which will give us a little bit of texture right at the end and a nice sort of salt and pepper sprinkle. Stir them together. I believe you want slightly more white than black when you make a mix like this, because the black ones stand out a little bit more. Or no, the white ones stand out a little bit more, so you want more black to balance them out. Unsure if true. Can I top Saturday's success? Unlikely. Saturday's was extremely successful, and I've been asked for the recipe, so I'm going to have to go watch myself back on that one. I'm going to have to watch myself back on Saturday's show and write it down. I need some sort of website to collect all of my recipes in one place, so when people ask me, I can be like, there, go get them. But I haven't written that one down yet, so I need to go back and write that one down, because it was a busy weekend, because it was this holiday weekend. Um, an ad is coming up. I need to go outside for a sec and cut a green onion. So you guys can watch I think I bumped my camera, honestly. Camera? Yes. You guys can watch that simmer for a moment. And I'm going to cut myself a green onion. I can still talk to you. We found that out a while ago. Ooh. I could take one of the ones that's flowering. Coming back. So I've taken one of the ones that's a flower stalk. Because they're extra long, they tend to be more sturdy than the non-flower leaves, and it has a flower on it. This knife is sharp enough that I can just kind of push the onion through the knife instead of the knife through the onion, and it just cuts it. Onion flowers are edible. If you've ever got a flowering onion, you can just go ahead and use them. The onion is going in with the sesame seeds because they're both going to be added right at the very end, and having them mixed together would just be more convenient. We have an ad coming up in 10 seconds. But thanks to Bookwoman's generous gift bomb, you might not be seeing an ad. I'm really thirsty today. I think it's because of the warm weather. It's catching up. Our Seitan is looking, if I fish one out, big. They're a lot bigger than they were when I put them in there. They're definitely very crowded. This step is necessary because you have to cook flour before you eat it. Raw flour is like the #1 source of E. coli. And this stuff is very dense, so they need to be cooked through to the middle. Because when you cook it in a stir fry, you're just sort of searing the outsides of these things. So the stir fry won't cook them through to the middle, so they need to be pre-cooked. We definitely have way more here than I need for today. So I have extras for doing other things with. How long have they been in there? I forgot to set a timer when I put them in there. So I'm not sure how long they've been. Does anyone remember? For doing. Oh, nope, nope, not that. No, I can't use that. I can't clip far enough back. That was my voice for a moment there. Boy, I still think back to the early days when I was using either the headset mic or the onboard mic, and my voice quality was just terrible. Now I think I sound good. Uh, we're going to save this broth because this broth will be very usable for other things after this. The seitan is not going to spoil the flavor of this broth. So we've got a pretty rich mushroomy broth here that's going to have notes of the ginger and the garlic and the wheat gluten contributing to its flavor as well. So, oh, there was what, a quart in there, quart and a little bit. I think that'll fit in one of my large jars, and then we can do something soupy with them. 3 cups. That might not fit in one of my large jars. We'll see. We'll see how much of it fits in a jar. I'm anticipating visiting my friend Fox Familiar Farms. Follow him on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. There's photos on Instagram now. Only one, but there'll be more because I found all my old photos, moved them, and I just need to upload them. But I'm expecting to see him tomorrow and receive more mushrooms. So we could do a Thursday mushroom something, mushroom stew, mushroom braise, because I'll have a flavorful mushroom stock right here, ready to go. And then some fresh mushrooms. We can definitely make that work. We can definitely make that idea work. It seems like it's mushroom season. It seems like it's going to be mushrooms, wall-to-wall mushrooms for a while. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. This bread is moldy. This bread that I've eaten this much of is gone off. I guess that's what I get for buying it 2 days after its expiration date. Dang! I just looked up there and I saw. Oh well. Speaking of mushrooms, bread mold. Ta-da! It's bread mold. Everyone's favorite mushroom. So we are just thinking about how long these have been in here because I can't remember. I kind of want to fish one out and check for doneness. The slices are pretty thin, so they should be cooking through pretty effectively. And they're not sticking together at all, which is very good. So I'm not 100% sure what my plan is. The rice is going to be done real soon too. So we should probably start changing gears into the making the stir fry portion. I do want to fish these out and showcase them for a bit before I throw them in, but there'll be plenty of extras. The sauce I made is very good. Very good. The Chinese and the Koreans should get their foods together more often. Mash those cuisines together. Just smoosh. Ooh! I have a great idea. Thinking of smooshing cuisines together, while that's simmering for another minute or so, I've still got these things. Remember these things? I haven't used them for a while. They come in red and they come in green. Let's use the red ones. Now, let's use both. These are Szechuan peppercorns in red and green. And I'm actually going to add some black peppercorns to them as well. These are the things that give you that that like electric numbing flavor that isn't like anything else you've ever had. Tastes like eating a firework. They're quite the thing, and I'm putting a lot of them in there. Okay, this might be excessive, but I don't think I want to grind them down into a complete powder. I think I want to fish the chunks out. No. Where's my little spice grinder? Let's grind the heck out of them. Let's pulverize them into a dust. Oop, rice is done. Ding, rice is done. Ding, rice is done. Okay, let's get this guy in here. Let's pulverize this stuff. Oh, we're getting exciting now. This is what happens with... Oops. Dropped that right in my starch water. This is what happens when you leave me alone with food. I cook. Aggressively. Okay. We will use our mortar as a storage bowl rather than getting another bowl dirty. Get this out of here. Now this stuff is, it's not spicy in the same way that like chili peppers are spicy. It's also not spicy in the way that like wasabi and horseradish and mustard are spicy. It's spicy in its own different way that feels like somebody's hooked up a car battery to your tongue. It's so unique that there is nothing else I can think of that is like this. There's probably something else out there that does something like this, but I am unaware of it. This is the only one that I have ever encountered. But give us a chance to make this an exciting day. I did make mapo tofu that one time, and that explicitly calls for quite a lot of Szechuan peppercorn, as well as quite a lot of bird's eye chili, because the tingly, nummy electric sensation balances out the hot pepper sensation, so you can get more heat in the dish, but still make it edible. I'm going to say that that has been boiling long enough. And we are going to start fishing these guys out of there. Also because our liquid is declining and the guys are no longer floating, they're resting on the bottom. So turn the heat off. And we just kind of fish them out. I should taste one as is, just to see what they're like. Fish the gingers out of there too. Nope, there's one. Probably not going to fish all the gingers out of there because some of them are falling through the slot in the spoon. Okay, we're going to move this pan out of the way. It's going to cool down a little bit, and then I'm going to save it because it is a nice, rich, mushroomy stock. It is a mushroom and wheat stock. And we're going to get our wok out. Put it on that same burner that's already hot. Cross our fingers and pray that this thing doesn't stick today. We've been plossing all of our mises over here, so we should be ready to stir fry as soon as the pan there is hot. So let me sample one of our seitan pieces, which are literally boiling hot, but they are now cooked through to edibility. They cut more easily because they are firmer. They are less springy, so they cut more easily now than they did. They look like they're cooked evenly all the way through. Let's take a nibble. Firm, bouncy. You can taste that it's made with wheat, for sure, but it's also got this nice, gentle, savory saltiness to it. And it kind of squeaks when you bite it like a cheese curd, but it's very like firm. You have to chew it. It's like it's kind of like a mushroom, honestly. Not like a button mushroom, more like a, well, let me compare it to one of these shiitake pieces. Yeah, it's not dissimilar to like a shiitake mushroom. So a very sort of firm mushroom in terms of texture, but not exactly. It doesn't have the smoothness that mushrooms have. It's definitely more textury. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I could just eat this stuff, which I'm going to do now. We're going to select some of these. Hot. Mm. We're going to select some of these because some of these I think are too big. But we're going to select a portion of these to be our meat element in our dish. Cut the ones that are oversized down to size. Or maybe just select the smaller ones. I think we're just going to select the smaller ones. Since they're already irregular, and then we don't have to cut them anymore. That should be enough. Probably more than enough. So I think I'm using not quite half. I'll put that guy back, and then, yeah, that'll be plenty for a nice, generous serving, and I won't have to slice them down anymore. I don't want to put these in the fridge right away because they're very, very hot. I'm going to cut this guy. I kind of like his weird shape. I feel like deliberately leaving your blob in kind of a craggly, weird shape so that you get craggly, weird pieces for your finished product would be a decent idea. Cut that guy, cut this guy, looks a little bit thick. Okay, that's going to be my Seitan component. And again, you just watched me cooking these. These are fully cooked. I don't have to use them now. I can save them. You can make a big batch of this stuff and save it. It doesn't keep for a long, long time. But it will keep for, I don't know, boiled and then in the fridge, at least a week, probably a little bit more than that. So let's get over the stove, put our heat on. I'm going to try the method that I was suggested last time, where I heat the pan first and then add the oil to it after it's hot, and then immediately start stir frying. And also, I know you're supposed to use steel tools in these kind of pans, but I really want to use a wooden tool, so but I do have the actual thing. Okay. I will force myself to use the steel thing. These handles are very wiggly. These handles have been wiggly since I got this thing. So we're heating the pan. The pan should heat up pretty quickly because this is a thin sheet of carbon steel, so you don't need a lot of time, but we do want it to be pretty hot. And we should probably get a dish ready to catch it when it comes out, which can be this one, because it's only slightly got a little bit of water in it. From rinsing the rice. We're going to use the rice rinsing dish as our catching dish, rather than attempt to serve this right onto my finished plate. I'm going to put it in a serving bowl like a civilized person. So we'll have that ready. Getting the pan heated up. Okay, we are getting to the fun part. 8 minutes to the next ad. This might take 8 minutes. I'm not sure. Ooh, pan's hot. Pan's getting hot. Okay, get our oil. Oil the pan. The oil flows easily almost immediately. We are adding as our first element the Szechuan pepper because we want to infuse it into the oil a bit. But not too long because I did grind it very, very fine, so it'll burn. So we then add our more robust vegetables. And we push them around and they pick up those little peppercorn pieces. As a reminder, this is sliced ginger, bok choy stems and carrots and onions. We want to get them well started before I add anything else. I should have my other things handy. There's our seitan, and there's our lighter vegetables, our garlic and our garnish. The garlic's going to be the next one to go in, and our sauce. Get all the things handy. I kind of wish this wasn't here, but it's hot, so I don't want to move it anywhere else. Nothing is sticking yet, which is a good sign. I took the time to re-season this pan again because I've had sticking problems. And I'm being a little bit delicate with the scraper here so I don't do what I just did there and dig into the seasoning. Okay, let's get... I said the garlic was going to be next and I threw the seitan in. The seitan and the garlic are going to go in next together because I was going to put the garlic in and forgot. As a reminder, the seitan is fully cooked at this stage. We just want it to develop some browning and pick up some flavors. And of course, this is a flat-bottomed wok, so it's never going to be quite as nice as a proper curved wok over an open flame, but I don't have an open flame. Got to do with what I can. Okay. The onions have all separated out pretty nicely. We're going to throw in this part. Bok choy leaves are sturdier than a lot of leaves, but they also will definitely cook down. So we're going to lose a lot of volume on them if we leave them in here very long. So now that they're in there, I really have to pay attention. Or they'll just wither away to nothing. I guess we'll sauce it up. Sauce it up, add those things. Heat off, get it out of the pan. And that was a stir fry, and it took me about 7 minutes. About 7 minutes from when I said that the pan was hot to it being called complete. And that's how quick a stir fry should be. I often let my stuff sit around. I often don't use a wok. I set my temperature to more of a medium, and I do more of a saute. Oh, I forgot my starch water. Oh well. Too late now. I guess it's just going to be wasted. That sauce didn't need it, which is why I didn't. Which is why I forgot about it, because ultimately the sauce did not need it. So a small amount of starch, of cornstarch, was wasted, but not a big deal. Let's service up. I'm gonna. An ad is coming up, and I'm going to attempt to take photos during the ad, and then we can do tasting when we come back from it, rather than skip the ad. So, I'll keep talking, but I'm not going to do tasting until that ad is complete. Our rice came out pretty nicely. It's not 100% good, but it's around as good as I can do rice. I struggle with perfect rice. I always do. Oh boy, I worked up an appetite throwing that walk around. I was worried I wasn't going to be very hungry because I had kind of a large and late lunch. But no, I feel like I will be ready for dinner just about when this is ready for eating. We need to arrange a little bit because I want it to be extra pretty on the top. We're going to take one of our Seitan pieces, put it right there. Our prettiest mushroom can go right next to it. You get things kind of tucked in around the edges. Garnish with an onion blossom, and I'm going to give it an extra little sprinkle of sesame seeds. Since the ones that are in there, they're visible, but they're not super visible, and I'd like them to be decorative. So just a tiny sprinkle of black and white across the top. Oh, and the ad is about 10 seconds from ending now. Oh, shoot. Oh. Well, there's plenty going on in here. Hey, you remember the second thing I started preparing? And then I put in the sink? Do ya? Because I didn't until I looked at the sink just now and was like, oh. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, here's my sliced up little eggplant that I completely forgot about. I will have to do something else with those tonight because they're sliced and they have to be used. Surprise! Oh well. There's plenty going on in here. There's plenty going on in here. They're not going to be like, oh shoot, if only this had eggplant. Let me go grab photos. I have been told that I should completely rethink my photo station. And I kind of agree, but also that seems like a very daunting task. Uh, Come on. Probably too many photos that time. Um, but I could fry them up and put them in with the leftovers. That's a decent idea. I'm actually going to do that right now. I'm going to do that right now before this pan is completely cooled off. Because they'll bulk up the leftovers, because we don't actually have that much of the leftovers here. So they'll bulk up the leftovers so that when I have it a second time, it's slightly different, and also there's enough there. That's a decent idea. We're going to do that. I do want to taste what I've got. Let's re-oil the pan real quick. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't want to do taste. I don't want to do tasting notes while I'm doing something else. So tasting notes are on hold until I get these guys fried up real quick, and then I'll throw them in with the leftovers. See, this is why it's good to have people with you. I wouldn't have thought of that, because clearly I didn't think of that. Okay, for stir frying an eggplant, you need higher heat than you'd think. They will attempt to sponge up all that oil, and you would really like them to sear off on the exteriors first. The bits that are in there are already sizzling, so I'm going to take that as a sign that the pan is hot. And dump everything in. Eggplant is like a sponge. When you heat it or squeeze it or salt it, it expels the moisture that's in the sponge, but it's ready to take up other liquids, such as oil. Thus, it will remove the oil from your pan when you're trying to fry it, which makes it a little bit awkward. And if you overcook it, it goes to mush. But if you undercook it, it's kind of chewy. So we're going to attempt to perfectly cook these. Since I'm doing them by themselves, this is the ideal situation to do them perfectly because I don't have to pay attention to any other ingredient. It's just these guys just being themselves. We didn't have any really severe sticking, but we had a little bit of clinging when I put the sauce in. And enough of it that some of it has kind of charred in place. So I don't think we have the nice veneer, but I don't think I gouged it out this time. I just need to be delicate with this thing, I guess. You know what I would really love? You know what I would really love is a wooden wok scraper. Because I tend to like wooden tools. I don't know if that even would be effective. I don't know if that would even be effective. It might not be strong enough to scrape. I'm taking them out. I'm calling that good. Taking them out because they're starting to smoke. Get them in with the leftovers. And heck, since I got them done, let's take 2 of them. Add them to the thing. Pretend they were in there the whole time. Okay, on to the tasting notes phase, everyone's favorite phase of our dish. So my first bite, I would like to get kind of an everything going on. So some rice, some vegetables, some mushrooms, and a piece of the seitan. Mm. I just saw the top of my head. The seitan is pretty chewy. It is definitely a lot closer to what I think a perfect seitan could be. I think it's a little bit too on the chewy side because it kind of stays in your mouth longer than all the other ingredients because you're chewing it. It's not that it's tough, it's that it's bouncy. I read something that if I put a bit of baking soda in the flour blend, it makes it less likely to verge into that sort of erasery bounciness. We might try that next time. I feel like I'm very close and want to revisit that because it's quite good. The flavor is excellent. It's just a little bit too bouncy. Let's taste. I didn't give any notes on any rest of it. The eggplant is perfect. Oh my god. The eggplant is perfect. The eggplant has just enough resistance to it. The skin is got just the tiniest bit of crunch, but it's evenly cooked all the way to the center without being mushy, which means it's absolutely perfect. Well, dang, I should do that. Just cook all the ingredients separately and combine them. As for the rest of this stuff, like you'd expect in a stir fry, because the things haven't been in there very long, the flavors of the individual ingredients aren't melded. So you get bursts of the onion, the mushroom especially, and the seitan. The bok choy and the carrot are kind of more textural, but they both still have the stem parts of the bok choy, for sure, still have a good amount of their crispness to them, which gives an excellent textural contrast to the chewiness of the seitan and the mushroom. The whole thing is actually pretty spicy. And it has a distinct sort of electric tang to it from the Szechuan pepper, but it's not really punching me in the mouth. We didn't make no mapo tofu by mistake here. It's complementary. If you're sensitive to it, it might be too much, but mm, mm. But this is how you should do a stir fry. Really fast and hot, so the things are cooked but crisp. Tender crisp is what you're shooting for pretty much all the vegetables that you put in a stir fry. So julienning our carrots let us put them in at the same time as our onions, and yet they are not hard. I'm not going to say that the flavors are anything revolutionary. The sauce is a bunch of good, flavorful sauces combined together. So it's a couple different flavorful base sauces mixed. So it's got complexity and it's got quite a bit of spice. It's making me sweat a little bit, which is good because it's hot. We'll eat spicy food when it's hot because it makes you sweat. So yeah, I wasn't expecting this to be some big revelation. I wasn't expecting this to break any new ground, really. It's a stir fry. This has been made a million times before. Really, this was, I wanted to make some seitan, and I wanted to do something with it. And I like the flavor. The flavor of the seitan is on point. I just think it's gone a little bit too bouncy. Not even like extremely too bouncy, just a little bit. And it is such a distinct, unique flavor compared to everything else that's going on in here. I don't know. It's actually growing on me. As I eat this, it's growing on me a little bit. Because it's also a textural contrast with everything else that goes on in here. It's the only thing that has that bounce to it. Because even these mushrooms, because they have been now boiled and stir-fried, don't have that bounce. They've kind of deflated down to just the chewy stage. Mm. Mm. Okay, well, let me eat the onion flour. Onion flour. Raw onion flour. Well, that was the thing. There it is. I made it. I know the stir fry is the dish I'm presenting. The seitan was the main event of the project, and I'm, as I just said, pretty happy, reasonably happy. I think we've closed in pretty tightly on where I want that to be, which means I'm not taking wild stabs. I can just tweak. I can just make little tweaks to it now until I get exactly what I'm shooting for. And when I do that, it is very likely to become a core element of my repertoire because it's not hard to make, and it's pretty tasty. I'm going to see if I can't figure out I wonder if you can steam it. You could probably steam it. You could probably steam it. Anyways, that was the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Bookwoman for the pile of subs. I know Selena was here and already thanked you. Let's see who we can send the little bit of love we've got along. I'm going to go say hi to... Oh, Billy's on a break. We're going to go say hi to Billy, who's playing a game named after himself. His channel is... I call him Billy, but his channel is So Everdream, and he's playing Everdream Valley. I think it's coincidence. I don't think he produced a game, but we're going to go ask him and find out, because I didn't bother to check. It looks like he's currently taking a break, so let's see if we can't surprise him. Surprise him. Oh boy, 2. That might not even trip his raid message. Well, I know the weather's turning nice and people are less likely to be hanging out. I might try out different time slots, see if I can't catch like a bit later in the evenings. Maybe we'll do that on Thursday. That might work out. I will be putting up old photos on Instagram, on my new Instagram, with little captions describing what they were, because I got all my old photos off my tablet, so I can upload them now properly. But also new stuff will be going up there, because we're kind of trying to distance ourselves from Twitter, although I don't really want to go to Meta. We'll talk about that some other time. Here comes the raid countdown. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for raiding Billy with me. See you next time.